This is Office Talk with Annette Stepanian. Welcome back, my friend, and Happy New Year. I hope you had a fantastic holiday season with your family and your friends and got to catch up with them and maybe just sleep in or catch up to some podcast episodes that you might have missed last year. I am excited for the new year ahead. I have tons of new resources coming up for you guys over on the website that I can't wait to share with you. And I'm excited about the new season of Office Talk. I have some great interviews lined up with some of my friends who are doing some amazing things, both online and offline. And I'm also introducing a few episodes that they're kind of like legal quickies, but like not so quickies. So they're extended interviews with my lawyer friends on different topics that I know are really important for you to hear. Next week, I'm sharing my interview with my friend Lonnie Giamella, who is a partner over at a labor and employment firm in Southern California, and we're going to be talking all about hiring. So make sure to mark your calendars and subscribe if you aren't already, so you make sure that you get that and listen to that, because he is super helpful and provides a lot of great information. In today's episode, I want to share my interview with Monique Melton. So if you have not met Monique yet, she is definitely someone who has so much energy and just has this way of inspiring folks. And she and I, the first time we talked, she'd reached out to me and we literally talked for 3 hours on the phone. It was supposed to be a 15-minute conversation that went on for 3 hours. So if that's any indication of just how impactful she is and just how much she has to share, then I hope you're excited to listen to this episode. Monique is the author of Entrepreneurships, which is a book all about how we can build relationships by serving and supporting others. I couldn't think of a better way to kick off 2017 than to share this really honest and inspiring conversation that I had with Monique. Let's go to the show. Hey, Monique, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Yay! Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I know, you're like the best. I recently actually got to meet you in person. We were both speaking at the Savvy Experience, and I just loved your presentation. And anyway, before we get into all of that, let's bring our listeners up to speed. So if for some reason they don't know you, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I am Monique Melton. I am a author, also a brand strategist and speaker. I work with passionate women in business to encourage them to embrace authenticity. And basically what that means for me is that to embrace who you are, what you want, and the purpose for your life. And then once you're clear and focused and confident around those things, then we work together to come up with strategies to achieve your definition of success. So it's very much a personal discovery and really understanding who you are and celebrating that. And I work one-on-one. I also work in group and mastermind. I teach and all those great things, but a lot of it is around that. Who is that person and embracing that?
Nice. So why is that so important when you have your own business? Why is it so important for us to really understand who we are authentically and really go through that exercise for ourselves?
That's such a good question. I love it. So long story short, I believe that every single person who runs a business that is rooted in something real and something meaningful, it sparks from a place of pain, and it also can spark from a place of purpose and passion. And for me, it was all of those things. And so when I had both of my children, I experienced postpartum mood disorder very severely. And I remember after my daughter, she's 3, after her, I remember feeling it was almost like I felt trapped in this persona that I was trying to be because that's what I thought I needed to be. And it was very uncomfortable because it wasn't me. Mm-hmm. And so I hung up my brushes. Like I said, I was a makeup artist for 10 years, hung up my brushes and took some time out to just really ask myself, who are you? And explore those things. And that process was uncomfortable, but it was also very liberating because I was able to really look at me for who I am, no matter what that really looked like, and then say, okay, this is what I want, and this is what I want to do, and this is my life. And so it's so fulfilling when you're going after who you are, and you're not trying to compare yourself to anyone else, but you're focusing on being your best authentic self, that's where, to me, the most fulfilling life resides, when you're aligned with who you are and what you want, the purpose for your life, and you stay there. That's so important to me.
Mm-hmm. And what was it about being a mom that triggered that? Or was it a trigger? It sounds like it was, but
it was definitely a trigger. Is that me making that noise? It was definitely, I thought I heard a noise, but it started with my son. And so there was something about being exposed in the natural and in the spiritual that sparked that journey for me. With my son, I had a very traumatic birth experience. We almost lost him. It was it was extremely traumatic, and 29 hours of labor, still pushed for 3, and then had to have a C-section, and it was just so much. And so there's something about that process that sparked this discovery that I wanted to go upon. So it kind of started then, but I didn't give myself permission to go there because I was still struggling with defining what motherhood meant to me and all that. And when you become responsible for shaping, and primarily shaping, I should say, because there's so many different agents that do that in our lives, but primarily shaping someone's life. For me, it meant that, wow, I really, really want to do the best that I can. So that starts with me figuring out who I am. And that starts with me being able to be comfortable with who I am. And that starts with me being real about what I actually want in life. And that was hard because it was against a lot of what I saw growing up and what I saw around me. It wasn't, a lot of my friends were staying home and they liked being at home. And so I thought, well, I need to stay home and like this too. And I didn't like it. And it took me a while to actually admit that to myself because I thought that I wasn't a good mother for that. So there was a lot of conflict inside that I just reached a point where it was like, I had to break free of that.
Yeah, and I think that's something I know my friends and we talk about all the time, because here we've played this role in our lives, like primarily a professional role, and then we become mothers, and it's this kind of identity crisis.
Yes.
And you don't know where you fit, and you're like, well, a lot of my friends are lawyers, and they'll be like, well, am I a lawyer? Am I a mom? What am I? And it's, why are we so uncomfortable? Why do we feel this need to define it all the time? Like, why can't we just be? Do you know the answer to that, Monique? Tell me you do.
I think I don't know if it's the answer, but I do have insight to that, or an opinion, I should say. We all have an opinion, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that it is very much human nature for us to want to categorize and label things. It helps us control what we think we're controlling in life. It helps us to be able to remember things. It helps us to create order in our life. Human beings have been doing this forever. And so we do that with ourselves. We put labels on people and we say, okay, you're in this box. I'm going to keep you in this box, and you're in this box. And so there's a tendency to do that with ourselves. However, we're such complex creatures. Mm-hmm. And so while I'm talking to you, so what am I? A businesswoman right now? I'm a friend, but I'm also a mother, because there's a little girl down the hall who's sleeping. And at any moment, if she gets up, guess what? I got to go and take care of that. So there's motherhood right there. I'm also a wife, and so I'm a daughter, I'm a sister. And so I'm all these things at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes the roles conflict. Sometimes I'm not able to be as present in the role of a wife when I first had my kids, because I was nursing around the clock. I was tired. I was exhausted. And so no, I wasn't able to do everything that I was able to do with my husband prior to becoming a mother. So I think sometimes the roles will conflict with one another. And I think that's challenging. I think we're constantly going through a transition. And the more that we can embrace the transitions in life, instead of trying to put a label on everything and keep everything in a box and require for everything to stay the same and then be upset when things aren't staying the same because things are always changing. I think the more we can embrace, the more comfortable we can be through the journey and actually enjoy the journey and take a look at what's happening and enjoy what's happening. Pay attention to how you're developing, how you're growing. Motherhood, I used to feel like motherhood was the worst thing that ever happened, because
really?
I used to feel that way. And it was because I experienced a lot. I mean, I almost committed suicide, like that's really tough stuff to go through.
Wow.
And it happened after motherhood. My mind changed. I had depression and anxiety. And just so much of me just changed after becoming a mother. And so I used to feel like, man, this was the worst thing that happened to me, while also feeling like I love my babies. I would kill any person who ever tried to hurt them. Like, I shouldn't probably say that because that's not good. It's not premeditated, but I love I love my kids. Like, I would cut my arm off for them. Maybe that's better. Yeah. So there was like these two worlds that existed at the same time, these two beliefs, I should say. But now I feel like motherhood was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because it took everything that I thought I was and flipped it upside down, and it charged me to challenge my beliefs. It charged me to challenge what I thought was a mother, and what I thought was even a Christian, and what I thought was a friend and a sister and a wife. All these things that I defined based on shoulds and all these things, it really just challenged me to really define what they really were to me.
So what are those definitions, or what conclusion, or how did you resolve that within yourself, all these different conflicting roles and boxes and labels?
Yeah, I remember one day I was outside in my garage. I was actually in the parking lot, and the driveway, I should say, not a parking lot. And I talk to myself a lot. I talk to myself out loud. It helps me focus, because if I don't say it out loud, my thoughts will ramble all over the place. So sometimes I'll talk to myself out loud. And one day I just asked myself, what do you want? And I broke it down into categories, and because it helped me to focus what I was trying to think about, what I wanted. And when I thought about relationships, I wanted to be loved the way that I needed to be loved. And what is that? I had to figure out how do I feel loved? Is it this? Is it that? I think sometimes we don't take enough time to actually explore our identity. What do I really like? What do I not like? What breaks my heart? What excites me? And it just was a lot of questions like that. A lot of questions that I asked my clients, a lot of questions around that. And then just really learning to give myself and others a lot of grace, because just like I'm going through this process and embracing myself and all that, someone could be going through the very same process or not there yet. And so maybe they're still operating in a false persona that's smothering them, and they have not reached that spark, that point where it's time to really make a change.
If you're comfortable with it, I would be really interested in talking about the postpartum depression, and because I think it's an important conversation to have. Is that something you're okay talking about?
Absolutely. I would love to talk about it, because thank you.
It's not what we were planning on talking about today, but I think it's important, because I think it's so easy to just say, sometimes, people are like, oh, you're just PMSing, or, like to dismiss our feelings and our moods to something that is maybe hormonal or whatever, and instead of, and I think that allows us to just say like, yeah, whatever, like, let me just ignore it. It's just a phase, it'll pass. So I'm just curious, like, what was that process like for you? Like, were you aware of what was happening? Like, were you aware that, okay, there's this potential that I might have postpartum depression? And did you kind of like have a conversation with your husband? I mean, can you just, I don't even know what question to ask. I'm curious about that experience of like, I know something's not right, but I'm having these feelings, and how do you get out of that? How do you resolve that?
That's great. And thank you, because there needs to be so much more light shined on this. I had my son, both of my children were very much planned. We were excited to be parents. We were financially prepared. Like, we had what you would consider an ideal scenario to be parents. We were happily married. We've been married for almost 5 years before we had our first child. Like, all these great things were just in our favor. And I had a healthy pregnancy for the most part. And my daughter, that's another story. The pregnancy with her was really hard. But for me, my background is in mental health. So my education background is in sociology, psychology, and then I did 2 years of grad school in clinical counseling. So I read about this kind of stuff. I read that What to Expect When You're Expecting book, and I will never forget reading the part about postpartum depression, because most people think of they think postpartum depression, but there is actually postpartum mood disorder. There's a lot of different things that can happen postpartum that affect your mental health. It's not just depression. And so I remember reading that and thinking, oh, that won't happen to me. Like as if I had some control in that place.
Yeah, you're like, I know it. I'm strong enough to like avoid it. Okay.
That doesn't happen to me, right? And no, I think that for my son, the traumatic birth experience coupled with I think some people are more prone to certain illnesses than others. And so for me, there was a family history, unspoken family history. Things started coming out as I started doing some investigating.
Yeah,
but
it's always the case.
So there's that. And then you combine that with the fact that it is a completely life-changing transition. And mine was not smooth. So it was like the setup for a perfect storm. And when I remember in the hospital sobbing a lot. And he was a really challenging baby. Like I tried to nurse him and I had in my mind that what life was going to be like after becoming a mother. So I think that also was a bit of it because I had these really ridiculous expectations for myself and they
like
were not
a Lifetime movie, Hallmark movie.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So that was another thing that I just set myself up right there. And so he didn't come out nursing right away and he wouldn't nurse. And one of the nurses was like, I've never seen a baby like this. So I'm crying even more. I'm like, you see babies all the time. And this one is like broken. Like what is going here? So, but we were sent home and the next day they told us, take them to the doctor for their checkup. And we were sent home on a Thursday. So we could have took them on a Friday or a Monday. And so my husband insisted that we take them on Friday. And if anybody knows my husband doesn't insist anything. He's very laid back. And so we get to the doctor and come to find out he had lost way too much weight. We had to rush him back to the emergency room. He had to be hooked up to IVs. We were in the hospital for days. His levels weren't improving. They were telling us we might have to fly him out. Like it was just,
wow.
It was all while also recovering from surgery, a major surgery. And this whole time this is happening. So it didn't really hit me until I got home. And what happened, like I've done work around this. I've done therapy around this. And what happened for me was that I didn't know that he was near death. Like I didn't know. And that startled me so much that when we came home, I was checking him around the clock. I was writing down every time I nursed him. I was to the minute. I couldn't sleep. I could barely function. And then I was waking up and having night terrors. I would wake up and I was looking for him and realizing like he was already in his bed, but I'm searching for him. Like, where is my baby? I was having panics. Like it was a nightmare, like literally a nightmare. I couldn't sleep. And because nursing was so challenging with him, it would sometimes take 2 hours to nurse him. Well, you're supposed to nurse them in the beginning every 2 hours, and that 2 hours starts at the moment you start. Mm-hmm. So if it took 2 hours to nurse him, that meant that I was putting him right back on right after that. And so it was very exhausting. And so over time, my husband noticed that things weren't right. And I wasn't thinking, my mind wasn't thinking good thoughts. I was very, very, very negative on myself. Like, what were you thinking? You should not have done this. You're not a good mother. You're not enjoying this. What's wrong with you? And my best friend, she and I were pregnant at the same time. And she looked like she was having the time of her life. And she had just had her baby 2 weeks before me. And I remember looking at all the pictures on Facebook and just being like, what is wrong with me? I'm not enjoying this. I'm miserable. I'm in pain. I can't sleep. My baby won't sleep unless I'm holding him. I'm up all night and I'm miserable. And I remember sitting on my bed and my mom came in my room because she stayed with me for a while. And I said, I'm miserable. And she's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Don't say that. And so then it became like, okay, I should be ashamed of how I feel. So I didn't talk about it. And I'll never forget coming down in my living room and just sitting at the table with my mom, and I was just so miserable. And she said to me, she said, I don't think you are as prepared to be a mother as your friend was. And that,
ouch.
that crushed me so much. Because I was already comparing myself to her. So it was a lot of things that were happening mentally and physically that just prepared for this very challenging healing process for me. I call it a healing process because, just like it was a physical healing process, but it was a spiritual and a mental healing process. And for me, it was aggravated because of all those different things that were happening. And I did get counseling later on. As the time went on with my son, it got a little better, but it still centered around anxiety. I was always afraid of something devastating happening to him. Most moms have regular, like, a little bit of worry, like that's kind of normal, but mine was like paralyzing. There were times where I didn't want to go places and I didn't want people to touch him. I didn't want people to breathe on him. Like I was just paranoid, and it was just not healthy. Like there wasn't a healthy, it was complete hypervigilance. And he got sick quite a bit, even though we stayed home and he was breastfed for 13 months and we did all this organic stuff. I made all the baby food. I did all the stuff you're quote unquote supposed to do, which is so not even real anyway. And so I would blame myself every time he got sick or something like that. And so with my daughter, it manifests with a vengeance because it was almost like I had to do it right this time.
Yeah, you had to prove to yourself that
I had to prove to myself, and so it turned into OCD, where the extensive hand washing, and you thought with my son, you didn't want anybody touching him. People couldn't even come close. Mm-hmm. Like you had to basically put on like a whole body. It was just ridiculous. And I realized like when you're going through it, at least for me, you realize what you're doing is ridiculous and that is not right. But because you're so anxious and you're doing these things to help cope with the anxiety, you do them anyway.
So, this might be TMI, but I'm like that when I'm like about to get my period.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if as you get like moody and you're just like, mm-hmm. you know that like this is weird. Like this is not weird. It's out of your control, like it's almost like I'm a fly on the wall and I'm like, okay, Annette, like this is like you're overreacting or like you're being too sensitive to certain things, but you can't control it. It's really hard. And I don't know, I think most women can relate. Can't even imagine that times probably 100 with what you were going through with the kids and everything, because it's just you can see yourself but you can't do anything about it, or you feel like you can't.
You feel like you can't. You definitely can, but you feel like you can't. And because you don't really have the courage and the strength and the energy to do it, it's almost easier. It's kind of like when the kids are whining for something. It's like, oh, do I really have the energy to discipline and teach this lesson? Wouldn't it just be easier to just give in? And so like that's why parenting is so hard, because you don't give in. You've got to constantly, be teaching and all that great stuff. So with me though, I have definitely, thinking back, like this brings back so much, but thinking back to where I was when I first had my son and where I am now, it's like night and day. Like it's like night and day. Even my friends can notice a difference. My husband can notice a difference. Is everything better? No, I still struggle with some of the OCD, but I have better coping skills and even being able to talk about it, whereas before there was so much shame and so much guilt around it. Whereas now I'm like, yeah, I went through that and I'm so much stronger and I want to talk about it because I wish that more people talked about it to help normalize that this is just like with breast cancer. It's a devastating illness that takes people's lives and totally turns families upside down. And we hear about it and there's awareness around it. There's education around it. And there's support. And so we need to do the same with any kind of illness, any type of disorder that people can experience. People still need that love and support and encouragement around it. So if I can use my voice to be a part of that, then I will do that.
Well, thank you for sharing it, because I think there needs to be that first step is the awareness. And sometimes with certain issues, people just are not aware of even that there isn't a concern or that there's a bias or something, and it needs to be brought to the forefront. And that actually kind of transitions really nicely into the not new, but like kind of that new campaign, new movement that you're working on, which is about embracing diversity and building community. When I think of you, I think of, community, I think of friendships, I think of those kinds of themes. So can you talk a little bit about this Shine Brighter movement that you're working on and just what that means for you and what kind of awareness you're bringing to that issue?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Annette. I'm just loving this opportunity to share about things that I'm passionate about. So thank you so much. So Shine Brighter Together was not on my marketing plan for the year or ever, actually. It was not it was not something that I really went after. But I've noticed that that's been the case with me for most things that I start. But 8 years ago, I'm very much Christian. I love Jesus and all that great stuff. So 8 years ago, I was at church. It was about 8 years ago, and there was a guest pastor there who did an altar call, and during the altar call, he gave me a prophecy. And so basically, for those who might be unfamiliar with this, a prophecy is basically where someone can be able to share a vision for your life that is from God. And so at the time, I took what I took from it, but I didn't necessarily think about the part that I'm going to lead into now until recently. And so it was like, okay, that was 8 years ago. And I'll never forget during the prophecy, he told me that now would be too soon. Like, don't do it right now. And so later on, I was talking to a girlfriend, like fast forward 8 years to the present. I was talking to one of my best friends and telling her about this Shine Brighter Together and what I'm doing. And she said, don't you remember that prophecy? And I was like, what? She was like, let's go listen to it. So she had it in her car. It's an 8-year-old CD in her car, and she played it. And during the message, it said that I would bridge the gap between black and white. And it gave me goosebumps because
I just got goosebumps too.
Yes, a couple months before that, things just started coming to me. There were people who I didn't know that would reach out to me and about this. And usually on my Facebook, I don't really talk about other things other than that'll make you smile. Like, I really try to be positive there. And for some reason, with the recent shootings and things that were happening in our country, I just got fired up about it. And I think part of it was fear, because I have 2 Black children. I have a Black husband, and I'm Black. And so for me, it feels like very much a real possibility. It's not one of those things where it's like, oh, that's happening over there, or, oh, that's those people. It's like, actually, no, it's my people, and it could be me. And so that kind of sounds a little selfish, because it's like, okay, it could affect me, so now I care. But the point is, it got my attention, and that's how and I started talking about it. So people started reaching out to me, and I'm like, okay, but what am I going to do about this? I'm a strategist. So I'm the type of person that, okay, here's the problem. All right, great. We'll talk about the problem, but what's the solution? Let's figure out some solutions so that this is no longer a problem. That's how I operate in life. So for me, this was very solution oriented around solving real problems. And so I know the world that I operate in, for the most part, is in the business world. And when I look around the business world, there's a lot of division. I go to conferences, and you either see all of one or all of another, or a few of each. And that's not okay, because that's not what real life looks like. We're very diverse. It's a really diverse country that we live in. So I feel like when people say that they want to build community and they want to do all these things, I feel like their community should reflect what real community is. And so as I'm just doing more thinking and more praying about it, and more opportunities are being put right in front of me, it's like, okay, I'm going to actually do something and start a movement. And so Shine Brighter Together is a movement, a community that is committed to encouraging, equipping, and inspiring passionate women leaders to change the world by embracing diversity and building real community. And so, because I am a strategist, I know that when you are in a leadership role, you have influence. And it doesn't mean leadership it could be leadership in any number of people. But when people see you as a leader, they're more likely to listen to what you have to say and be influenced by you. So my strategy is that I can get as many leaders as possible to understand the importance of embracing diversity and actually go about building real community with real tools, real resources, real support, then I know that message will spread out a lot more strategically and faster, because they're going to reach their people. They're going to reach the people that they're already in connection with. And so that's the focus, is to support the other leaders who are doing this building and doing the work already with people. It's something that like I said, it's something that I didn't necessarily plan to do, but it is something that I feel very called to do. It fulfills that prophecy of bridging the gap. And it's also something very natural for me because in my my personal life is very diverse. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm a Christian. I love Jesus, but I have friends who don't love Jesus. And I have friends who don't believe anything. I have friends who are married, who are single, who are gay, who are not. Like I just have a very diverse group of people that I love and I care about, and it's very natural for me to be around them. So I can hear both sides, and I'm able to have love for both and to also work to bring us together. And that's the role that I'm in here as far as with race. Like I have friends who are Black, I have friends who are not Black, and I love both, and I'm able to hear both sides, but I also have an agenda of bringing us together because I believe there's more power when we come together, and we need to be unified. And I believe that we all have a light within us. And so when we turn our lights on and we shine brighter together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, a lot of this when, people are kind of divided, I don't know, and this could be my ignorance or whatever, I don't know how much of it is like a conscious bias, where I'm like, well, I'm not going to talk to her because she's Black. Like, I don't know if people think that way. Then again, I grew up in California. I've spent most of my time in LA and San Francisco. Like there's a lot of diversity here, but sometimes it's just a result of our circumstances. If you live in a certain community where people just happen to be primarily of a certain color, or, that's just your world, what are some things that people can do to consciously minimize that bias?
Absolutely.
Or bring awareness, just kind of like with the postpartum depression, what is it that people can do to bring those people together in a way that, in business or in life?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're so right. It's the same thing that I hear across the board because I ask and I talk about this a lot now is, well, what do I do when I'm from a small town or there aren't any, Black people in my high school or this is how I was raised. Like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do?
And I just want to clarify, it's not just a black and white issue as well.
Absolutely.
So it's not just on race. It could be race of different colors and, origins, but
absolutely.
There's gender bias. Yeah. There's so many different things.
There's so many.
With that.
And because I know that, I want to say that I care about all of that. I care about equality across the board. My focus is, however, primarily right now, at least, on race. Yeah. And so however, I will say that all those other places deserve equal representation and diversity amongst it as well. My focus is definitely on race.
Yeah, and it's in current events. It's crazy what's going on.
Exactly.
Absolutely nuts. But
it's not just a white and Black thing. You're right. So I definitely think that one of the things is we live in a very virtually connected world. Most people in business, if you don't have some type of online community or presence, you're kind of, I don't know where you are. I don't know people who don't do that. So I don't. So therefore, the opportunity to reach out to people outside of your local community is way more than it was 10, 20 years ago. So to me, that's really not a valid reason anymore. For me, it means being intentional. But you have to want it. So if all you have around you are people who look like you and they act like you and they do what you do, if you don't want anything different than that, you're not going to search for it. And so it's similar to anything. It's similar to business. If people don't identify that there's a problem in their life, why would they be searching for a solution? Mm-hmm. And so my focus is not necessarily on the people who are okay with the status quo and they wouldn't necessarily care to change it. I'm more so concerned with the folks, like you just asked me, like, how do I open up my world and invite people in that don't look like me? They're more like in the stage 2 where they're searching for solutions. And so one of the very simple things to do, it's so simple, is go to communities that already recognize and celebrate people of different backgrounds and go and be a part of those communities. And if you find yourself in a community where the leadership is all of one race, then that's not necessarily going to be a community that is pushing that message out. So And that's just the case. Like I've looked at them, I'm looking and studying, I'm paying attention. If the leadership, and now I'm not just saying if leadership is one person, but if the leadership is a team of people and they all look the same, how important is diversity to them? Because it starts with the leadership. So if leadership, however, is pretty mixed and diverse, then that might mean that they're going to attract a diverse and mixed group, because you're going to attract what you put out. So that's a very simple way to do that. All you have to do is scroll through Instagram, reach out to people. If you see somebody doing great things and you want to get to know them, reach out to them, send them a message, support them, follow them, see what they're about. It's very, very simple. I think you just have to want to do it.
Mm-hmm. Which also then leads into, this is so great. I don't know, like you're like positioning this stuff into like, which also, is about your book. We totally did not plan this, but this just goes to show that you are living and doing everything. There is a synergy to what you're doing. And it's about your book, the I always mess it up. I'm sorry, Monique. Entrepreneur Friendships. Okay. It's very memorable. I just can never pronounce it.
It's a tongue twister.
Yeah. So the Entrepreneur Friendships is about building community through friendships in business and kind of coming up from that mindset. So can you talk a little bit about that philosophy of yours?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And and I will tell you this, it's not an original philosophy. It's really based, it's really based upon, actually, it's spoiler alert, but it's really based upon the Bible and Jesus Christ. And it's basically that he came here to serve, and that's what he did. And so the book is really based upon the premise of serving and supporting people, going into relationships with the intent to make a difference in their life and not necessarily what you can get from them. That's, to me, a very heart-centered place to start. Now, of course, we have business transactions that need to happen, right? We still have to build business. So it's not to say that these relationships are not going to work towards building your business, but you have to go in them with the intention of how can I serve and support people. So I'll give you an example. Heather Crabtree, everybody in the online world pretty much knows her. If you don't, then now you do. So she's fabulous. Like, as I think about leadership and people on her team, I mean, if you look, she has a very diverse team, and I'm sure that was intentional. But when you live that way, it almost is just like how you do things. It becomes organic, it's like you don't have to even think twice about it. So with her, she is someone who I respect, someone who I admire, and she's also a friend of mine. It didn't start off that way, however. Like, it started off, she didn't know me, I didn't know her. And she has a Facebook group, and I went in there and started supporting it, started telling people about it when I would Periscope, and I started answering questions in there, and I just started pouring support there. And next thing you know, people start noticing that, and it grows from there. And I have several people in my life who would not be in my life had I not started the relationship with, how can I do something for you? How can I support you? And the thing is, the return may not necessarily come from that person. And so that's why I believe you should sow good seeds wherever you go, because for all you know, you may encounter someone that you may never have seen it coming, but because of something you may have done somewhere else, it had opened up an opportunity for you. And so the book talks about a step-by-step process that helps you navigate how to go from stranger in the room or stranger online. This person doesn't know me. I know them just from what they put out in the world, but I don't know enough about them to call them a friend. And so how do I go from that to actually being someone who I call friend, or at least call business relationships? So I think that there's business relationships. So if you think about in your personal life, you have folks who are your friends, you have folks who are your acquaintances, and then you have your best friends. And so as you develop in any of those, you realize that your best friends, that's going to be few in number. And that's what an entrepreneur friendship is. An entrepreneur friendship is someone who you would consider like a business bestie. You guys support each other. You share each other's communities. You are accountability partners. You may even have a form formal type of referral agreement between the two of you, or not so formal, but you really are invested in each other and you're committed to building one another in business and in life. Whereas a business relationship, it may be more casual. You may still support that person, cheer them on big time, but it may not be as close as an entrepreneurship. So the book talks about how to build both.
I think everything you're saying is totally spot on, but I think there is a process to getting there, like mentally and with a mindset, because if you're just starting out, I think for most people, it's about like, it feels like you're in survival mode, right? Where you're like, I don't have enough bandwidth to like, I just need to be thinking about myself. Not just myself, but like my business or whatever. I may not have more to give. And, but what I like about what you're talking about is something to think about and to really maybe flip it on its head and just say, well, what if I kind of do it the other way? What if I put others before me, or their interests, not before me, but I align their interests with mine as well? And how can I build from there? But it's a process. I don't think it's, I could see how some people might be like, oh, I'm not going to spend all this time in a Facebook group. I have like clients to take care of, or I have a baby to feed or whatever. And it maybe creates like a little bit of like, another thing to do. But I do agree with you. I think you get out of life what you give. And if you can sow those seeds and you can nurture it, it's like anything else. It's like a plant, right? The more you nurture it, the more it grows, and it yields fruit for you and it yields return back to you. But you have to do it from a place that's authentic. I think there are people who are doing it because they feel like that's what's going to get them ahead, but it just doesn't feel genuine when you're on the receiving end of it. So
and I talk about that in the book too. Like you've got to check your motives, you know. And I will say this: when I started my business, being a strategist, you have to figure out what marketing strategy is going to work with your time, your resources, and also what feels right for you. And so for me, I had more time than I had resources, and it also felt really good to want to get in a room and connect and build relationships, because I'm a very relationship oriented person. So for me, this strategy was like jackpot, like bang, bang, bang. I get to make friends and I get to build my business at the same time. Wow. So that's what I focused on in the beginning. And it is by far the only thing that I will say has grown my business like leaps and bounds, is the fact that I consistently focus on supporting and serving people. Now, email marketing is important, social media, all that stuff is important. It all has its place. But for me, those are side dishes, whereas the main course is the relationship. And although those side dishes, those are yummy, they're great, but I really want to focus on the main dish, because the other people, you can hire people to do the other stuff. Like I can hire somebody to manage my email. I can hire someone to manage social media, but I'm not going to hire someone to manage relationships and to build relationships. That has to be my focus. So in the kitchen, if you think about it as in the kitchen, like you can get your sous chefs to do all that stuff, but you have a master chef in there that's going to work on that main course and making sure that that is rock star and it's going to be amazing and it's going to be memorable and you're going to want to come back. So my relationships are, when I connect with people, they want to stay connected. They want to come back. I'm a really great friend. I love people from a genuine place. So to me, it's the jackpot. But that's what marketing is all about. Marketing is all about relationships. So if we don't get those right, like even life is about relationships. The relationship you have with yourself, the relationship you have with others, the relationship you have in community. Like if we can get relationships right, my goodness, everything else I feel like falls into place.
And it takes work. It really does. I mean, I've been thinking about like just even my like non-business friendships, you know, like I have not been a good friend in the sense of like I just have been so consumed in the last few years with what I've been doing that I haven't been, you know, keeping the ties and connecting and staying in touch with people. Just it's for whatever reason, you know, whatever the reasons are, they are. But I was just thinking about that the other day. I'm like, wow, like you can't take these relationships for granted. Like I need to put in that effort. I need to pick up the phone and consistently, you know, keep in touch with these friends, or else all of a sudden it just becomes like, oh yeah, this person I once knew that I once went to college with or whatever. So, Monique, you have shared so much with us, but I also wanted you to share your whole like peanut butter analogy that I just like love it. And can you just, it might kind of come out of context, I don't know, but when we were at the Savvy experience, she talked about being peanut butter. So can you, and knowing what kind of peanut butter you are. So can you share that with our listeners?
Oh my goodness. My daughter demanded a peanut butter and jelly sandwich today too. But so basically at the Savvy experience, I was talking about Savvy experience hosted by Heather Crabtree, root, love. That's my girl. I also talked about this at another conference too that I just came back from in Denver, Jen Sprinkle, Campwell. Okay. So had the little plugins, but basically when I talked about every client experience needs to have your personality in it. And so what I say is that not everyone loves peanut butter and jelly, and you may be a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And so instead of trying to force your peanut butter on people who have an adverse reaction to it, like there are people who are literally allergic and they will die if they are even in a room or touched or smell or even eat peanut butter. So your business, your offering may create an adverse reaction. Maybe it won't kill people, hopefully. But the point is you're not trying to force that person. Like, how dare you try to force somebody who doesn't want what you have? Instead, focus on the people like my daughter who love peanut butter and jelly, the folks that are looking for peanut butter and jelly, folks that are looking for it. And so then you just be the best peanut butter that you can be. You can be organic, you can be crunchy, you can be smooth, you can be a little bit both. You focus on being the best for them and position yourself to where they can find you easily, and you constantly are being where they are. So that's with marketing. You got to figure out where your audience is and constantly serve and support where they are naturally. Like, don't necessarily try to force it on them. You naturally want to show up where they are. And it's like, oh, that peanut butter and jelly, just what's that doing right there? Like, how did you know I wanted a peanut butter right now and jelly sandwich? It just appeared on the table. Like, wow, that's so amazing. So, show up for them and be the best peanut butter and jelly sandwich you can be. Don't try to be a ham and cheese. Don't try to be a grilled cheese sandwich. Don't try to be, roasted veggies and on a, croissant or anything like that.
Bread.
Ciabatta bread. Yeah, not croissant. Who wants roasted veggies on croissant? But that doesn't sound good.
Maybe there is somebody out there. You don't know.
There could be. And you know what? That's like a very niche market. Maybe that's the niche market. But that's my point. I mean, I do analogies all the time. I feel like it just makes complex ideas very simple and digestible
and memorable. So, yeah, I love that peanut butter. When we were joking and we were like, "What kind of peanut butter are you?" And I'm like, "I'm organic, crunchy almond butter, roasted." So maybe we're going to put all our Instagram and all of our links in there. Maybe you could tag us and let us know, what kind of peanut butter are you?
Yeah, I think I'm definitely a smooth, organic, no stir. I don't want to open it in a soupy.
You have that pool of oil on top.
I don't like that. But yes, definitely organic, smooth, no stir.
That's peanuts? Peanut butter?
Yes.
Or almond, because now they have cashew butter. They have like all kinds of butter.
That's just doing too much. See, I just feel like you need to be simple sometimes too. Like I talked about that in my presentation. Make it simple. Like that's just doing too much. But hey, somebody likes it.
Anyway, Monique, this has been awesome. I could talk to you, like literally we could talk for hours. The first time we talked, I know. The first time we talked, it was supposed to be a 15-minute, like, let's just get to know each other because we were both speaking at Savvy. And we talked for 3 hours. We even took a potty break. And then like there were tears involved. So we could go on for hours. But we are going to wrap it up here because your daughter's going to wake up any minute now.
Yeah, she will wake up demanding snacks. Yes.
Some peanut butter.
Yes.
So just answer this one last question for me.
Okay.
One thing I know for sure is, and fill in the blank.
Ooh, that's a good one. One thing I know for sure is that life is about relationships. And if we can focus on having a great relationship with ourselves, having a great relationship with others, I think we can have a more fulfilling and enjoyable life.
Well said, Monique. Thank you so much for being here.
Yay! Thank you for having me.
So there you go, my friend. If you want to connect with Monique, head on over to the show notes where you can grab all of her contact information as well as links to her book, Entrepreneur Friendships. And that you can find over at AnnetteStepanian.com/podcast/19. I can't believe that next week we are going to be on our 20th episode. I am so excited about the growth and just being here every week with you. If you enjoy this podcast, I would really appreciate if you leave a review on iTunes. You can either write a review, maybe give me a star rating, or even subscribe, or do all three. I appreciate all of it, and I do read every single review. If there are specific people that you would like me to interview or specific topics that you want me to address, you can always reach out to me over at AnnetteStepanian.com. You can catch all my contact information over there. I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will see you back here next Wednesday. Thank you so much for listening, and I can't wait to talk to you later.